So every morning we would sign to our son, "Good morning, I love you." And sometimes we would sing it, "Good morning, I love you." And one morning, he was not quite 6.5 months old. We did the good morning part, and he knew the I love you was coming. But before I did it, he did that. I, of course, burst into tears. And every time from then on out, if we signed or said, "I love you," he would do this until eventually he could get this whole sign.
Today's guest is the founder of Baby Fingers, a program that helps parents connect with their babies through sign language and music way before they can speak. Laura is very passionate about empowering parents to understand their little ones. And I'm super excited to have this conversation today. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you.
Can you maybe dive in by telling us more about Baby Fingers and what inspired you to start it? Was it a personal aha moment where you used sign language for babies, or what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're now in our fifth year, and it was my older son who recently turned 26 who really inspired me to start Baby Fingers. So I'm a music therapist and did a lot of my work with using music in language development in general. And I did some work with deaf and hard of hearing kids, as well as with hearing children of deaf parents, and really studying their language development and how they interact with music, and went on for my master's in deaf education and decided to put the two together, the music therapy and the deaf ed work, to see how they could really work together. And I had done some study of the importance of music in deaf culture. And so I had a little understanding of how the deaf community was already interacting with music, and which is separate from how they're developing language, but signing through songs can help people who already have an understanding of sign language understand deeper meanings in lyrics and in music. And so I just started, well, my master's thesis was a pilot program for parents with young children. So combining that with music therapy work and with signing with my own children, literally the moment they were born, I started signing and incorporating song the sign. I found that my kids were extra focused, that they got really excited, that they remembered more readily, that were incorporated through songs than just general conversation, and following routine. So every morning we would sign to our son, "Good morning, I love you." And sometimes we would sing it, "Good morning, I love you." And one morning, he was not quite 6.5 months old. We did the good morning part, and he knew the I love you was coming. But before I did it, he did that. He was almost 6.5 months and did this. So he didn't get the whole I love you, but babies approximate language in any language, right? He was approximating something that, whether he understood exactly what it meant or not, I don't know. But he knew it was something that we said to him that felt good. And he
Wow.
wanted to say it to us. So I, of course, burst into tears. And every time from then on out, if we signed or said, "I love you," he would do this until eventually he could get this whole sign. And it just exploded from there. And it really started with him understanding our signs.
That's incredible, and I can't even imagine. I mean, as a new mom, the feeling of them communicating back to you as, like, the first interactions in the first months, because I think overall, it's a little bit, at least for me, that's something I had to get used to constantly talk to your baby, right? It's so important, but it feels a little odd in the beginning, to be completely honest, because you feel like you have a monologue all day.
Yes. And you do, you really do.
You do. So I can't even imagine this first time you get something back, and it just, yeah, that's such a beautiful story. I really love that.
One of the nice things also with signing with them, as opposed to just talking all day, is that you do have to be face to face for them to see you sign. And so you sometimes will get a little bit more of a response than just to speaking, because um, they're seeing their facial expression in response almost immediately. Or you're seeing something go on with their recognition of something or interest in the way your hands are moving.
That's beautiful. So, do you actually think that, or do you realize that they like understand the signs, and they kind of, because it's like, when you speak words, you have an emotion behind a word. There's an emotion behind yes, there's an emotion behind no. So do you feel like they actually like understand the signs pretty early on?
I do think they make those connections early on. And typically, we recommend that if you know you have a hearing child, that you speak at the same time that you're signing. So that emphasizes their development of both the spoken language and the sign language. And that helps with that emotional impact. But once you think that they are responding to a sign, to then sign it alone without speech really helps solidify the confirmation of their understanding of it. And you can sign differently. So angry, really angry, just kind of annoyed. The way your facial expression, your body language, and the intensity of your sign changes can really bring in that emotional component where the voice isn't necessary.
That's beautiful. So what age would you say is a good time for parents to start using sign language with their babies?
So my personal philosophy is if you know any signs at all, to start from day one. So because if you're a hearing family, you're speaking to your child from day one. And if
Mhm.
you're a hearing family who happens to then have a child who's deaf, the rest of your family and your other children have been hearing language from day one. Your deaf child can have access to language from day one if you're signing. So hearing children, though, still could have access to language from day one that they could develop to be able to then use. So if you know any signs, doesn't matter what, I say to start from day one. If you don't know them, there's no time that's too soon or too late. Whenever you find an online program, a class to go to, a couple of signs, I say get started. So there are some philosophies that say between 6 and 8 months, your child has what they need, the capacity to be able to sign back to you. So that's when you should start with a couple of signs. And once they start signing back, then add more. So personally, I feel like that if that works for you, do that. But I think that there's also the possibility of losing some opportunities if you're only signing a few signs until they sign back. Just like we don't wait for them to start talking back before we give them more language. So there's a lot of different philosophies out there about when is the best time to start and what's the best sign to start with.
Yeah. What would you say overall is like value? Like why you think this is becoming more of a trend, it seems like. Like kind of how you explain it, the difference between hearing families and deaf families, that now it's being used in all families. And it's just so beautiful. But can you maybe tell us more about it from your perspective? Like, what do you see as the value behind it? Why do you encourage hearing families to use it?
So there's a variety of reasons. I think that the more hearing families are signing, the more families with deaf children will feel empowered to sign as well, because oftentimes medical professionals are discouraging families from signing and focusing more on the medical aspect of deafness through technology. And whether you have a hearing child, a deaf child who's aided or has technology, no baby at 6 months can say, I love you, but could
Yeah.
potentially sign it. The idea of language, of having accessible language so a child can start developing language, whether they have hearing or not, I think is so key. And then if a child meets another child who's deaf or who maybe is autistic or for some other reason is having challenges developing spoken language, they have more than just a gesture or just a device with pictures to point to. They have an actual language that they're
Yeah.
using. And it just broadens their ability to learn and to develop literacy and everything that comes along with that.
That's so beautiful. I think it's, let me just think about this like typical, that's almost like, I don't know, like everyone, I think that's like a thing that moms get so excited about when their baby for the first time claps, right? And you show them how to clap. And in the end of the day, that's a sign. Obviously, it's not using sign language, but so that like nowadays we take it farther and we say, well, why should we stop at just clapping, which is almost like a milestone?
Yes, yes,
Right? It's like, "Oh my
exactly.
gosh, you're clapping. That's such a big
Exactly.
deal." And you get so excited as a mom.
And it
You're
is
like, "Yay."
exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so exciting.
And that's one thing though, if you're exposing your child to sign and they start to clap, it could be like a hooray moment, right? because simply because they clapped, or they might be clapping because they loved something that was just happening. But that's also an opportunity if their hands are coming together to say, "Oh, do you want more?" Right? If the
Mhm.
music just stopped and they clap their hands, "Oh, hooray! I loved that. That was great, a great song. Do you want more?" And if you
Wow.
already know they can bring their hands together to meet at midline, this could even be their approximated sign for more until they can eventually get that.
That's amazing. And that then can be used for so many other situations, right? Especially
Exactly.
when it comes to kind of the typical frustrations like bedtime, eating, like, do you want more? Instead of like trying to feed until they cry.
Yes,
To
exactly.
really know, do you want more or not? I mean, that's fascinating. So maybe for those like simple signs, at what age do you usually see babies being able to communicate back?
So, some babies are able to do that as young as 6 months. Most babies, somewhere between 8 and 10 months, have the motor capacity to do that. And everybody's developing at different rates. And that's something for parents to really remember that even though the textbook says at 3 months, you might see this, you might not, but you might see something different. Or one baby is focusing more on language and one more on mobility or something like that. And they eventually then catch up. So to know that the capacity is typically there between 8 and 10 months, but some little ones are going to do it sooner and others later.
It probably also depends how early you started and what your experience as a mother is.
Yes.
Because yeah, I had this funny experience as I was starting to talk to you that I got my Love Every subscription box and I had a book in there with sign language. And I thought that was just so beautiful and at the same time surprising to a certain extent that it's becoming so mainstream and so popular, but just really, really beautiful because before having a baby, I never thought about it, that it can really help with these daily frustrations. Would you say that it helps with like the like emotional development of children? Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll give you a quick story. My older son, he really sign language, just it was his first language. And at 10 months old, he put two signs together. He asked for more music. I mean, he really like it was incredible. Around 13 or so months old, he was standing and reaching up to play the piano while my husband was playing. My husband thought, okay, maybe he'll be more comfortable if I hold him on my lap to play. So my husband picked him up so he could reach the keyboard more easily. And he got very irritable. And I was in another part of the room and he looked at me and he went, which is the sign for angry. He had never used it before.
Wow.
And I said, "Why are you angry?" And he went, "Dada," was his approximation for daddy. Dad. And I said, "Honey, maybe put him down." And my husband did, and he was happy again. He wanted to just reach up and play, doing it in his own way. And
Wow.
so for him to he had the appropriate language to use, and because he had it in sign, which was more accessible at that time,
Yeah.
he was able to tell us, and it was the first. Your kid doesn't always wanna look at you when you're angry. I wasn't sure he actually ever saw me sign it, and I did. "Mommy's angry," but I didn't think he ever looked. Well, he took it in and he used it. So, I absolutely think it helps them to recognize emotions, label emotions, express emotions, and to understand that especially if you as the parent feel comfortable demonstrating those different emotions and signing them, then your child understands it's okay to feel them, and this is how I can tell you how I'm feeling.
That's so amazing.
Mm.
That story is just wow. I mean, it's yeah, that's so, so incredible. Just kind of getting maybe into music because he was saying, for example, he was even able to show you more music and your background as a music therapist. Can you tell us more about like how you use music at home and how you use it in your classes and yeah, how it can influence development as well?
Sure. So how we use it in our classes is partly based on how I started using it at home with my kids and, my research and experience as a music therapist and an early childhood educator. A combination of familiar children's songs. So whatever songs are part of your family culture or part of like the typical American nursery rhymes or songs that children get excited about or enjoy listening to, but also songs that incorporate vocabulary that would be helpful for them to use, like The More We Get Together, right? The more often you sing that and they hear you say the word and they see you sign it, eventually you can take that sign out of the song and use it in a conversation or in a situation, and it will be that much more familiar to them. The repetition in music is really helpful. It's much easier to, like you were saying earlier, I feel like I'm talking to my child all the time and,
Yeah.
waiting for a response. And so it can be harder to all day say, "Do you want more? Do you want more? Do you want more?"
Yeah.
But if you're singing, "The more we get together, together, together," and the natural repetition in music just feels more natural to then be
Mm,
repetitive. And children thrive on that repetition.
okay.
So because of that, it helps them retain what they're learning. And if you ever think about if you, when you were studying, put things to music or even a rhyme or a mnemonic device of some sort, it helps you remember. So music really can support retention of new learning. And
That's
so through initially singing with the signs, when not in place of using them in conversation, but in addition to, and even perhaps more often, it can then allow you to take those signs out of the songs and use them in your interaction where they'll be remembered and recognized more readily because of that natural repetition of the music.
I never really thought about it that that's why there's always the repeating rhymes.
Yes.
The music in the like, yeah, these songs.
Yep. And
So,
the melody itself will repeat as
yeah.
well.
How often would you say you have to repeat a word and a sign together? Because I think that's another thing that can feel kind of silly almost, that you just sit there and you keep repeating it, and you keep repeating it. But I recently learned how important it is. So, how often would you say you have to do that?
A lot.
A lot.
Just like I said earlier, everyone develops at a different rate. Some little ones are gonna pick up really fast, and you feel like, "Oh, I've hardly even repeated that and they got it."
Yeah.
And, others will need more. But even if you feel like, "Okay, I can't just go more, 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 more all day," then maybe whenever you do say more, to remember to sign it.
Hmm.
So at least they get the repetition throughout the day, even if they're not getting it within a short span of time.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of going into music in terms of instruments because, like you do play instruments for kids in your classes and I'm sure at home you kind of like talked about that a little bit with your husband playing the piano. What would you say when it comes to instruments? Because that's just a personal experience which was kind of almost we realized it by accident that when she was really fussy when she was only like 3 4 months old, the only time she would stop is when my husband would take the guitar and
Mhm.
would just he would just have to start, and the second he touched it, she stopped, and you could just see this relaxation come in. And then the next phase of being so intrigued and feeling this accomplishment of being able to create a certain sound on the guitar herself. So I was just curious about instruments and how you use them and what they actually mean for the development as well.
Yeah. So, something that a guitar provides is not only the sound, but there's, as with other instruments, but there's vibrations,
Mhm.
immediate vibrations. And so, oftentimes, little ones are responding to that combination of the sound and the vibration, which can be really, really soothing. So, humming can do that. And if you have a very small child who needs help with regulating, having their back or their chest to your chest while you hum,
Mm.
those vibrations will stimulate the vagus nerve, which puts your parasympathetic nervous system into gear and you can start to relax. It helps you and it helps them. They'll get that same feeling and that same end result of relaxation. So vibrations can be really an incredible and essential part of the music experience. And so for children who are deaf, the vibration, there's variations of sound that will come in as well, but the vibration will be really essential in helping with that understanding of music and that sort of emotional regulation. But With children who are deaf or hearing, I'd say whatever instrument you have at your disposal. And if all you have is your Spotify playlist, then play that. So typically, I say that music that makes you as a parent feel good will help your child feel good because they're going to feel good being around you. The more relaxed and comfortable or joyful you feel, so will your baby.
Hmm.
And so if that means you're listening to country or hard rock or violin or drums, whatever it is, they're going to develop a sense, most likely a positive sensitivity to that. And eventually they may say, no more. I've had enough of that. But it's a starting point. But instruments that really give off a vibration and drums that are accessible for a child to play themselves,
Yeah.
xylophones that they can sort of do a glissando on and play and feel that the vibration, but also the bring kind of sound. So I did some work with babies in the NICU and infants who are preterm. I mean, there's so much going on with their needs and their development, but there's something called an ocean disc, which is like a smaller ocean drum that just provides the sound of the waves. And there's something called a gato box, which is a wooden box that you can hit gently with a mallet that sort of emulates the heartbeat. And in utero, babies are hearing the mother's heartbeat and
Yeah.
the whoosh of the amniotic fluid. And so that's extremely comforting for them. So even babies who are not preterm, but newly born babies can be comforted by instruments that emulate those sounds as well.
Yeah.
And if there was songs that you sang or listened to often while you were pregnant, those can become familiar. They're heard a little bit differently through in utero, but those can become familiar to your baby and can be supportive and comforting to them post birth as well. So while there are certain instruments that certainly give off what you would consider to be a more soothing sound or a bigger vibration, everyone has different likes and dislikes. And so it becomes more a matter of what becomes familiar to them and what is comforting within the family unit.
So you don't say kind of the typical of, "Oh, you should listen to classical music with your newborn." It's not.
I don't say not to, but I
Okay.
don't say that's what you should.
Yeah.
There's some wonderful so I loved playing classical music with my own children and then showing signs for fast and slow and loud and soft and drums and trumpet, for them to see the signs for all the different aspects of the music and sometimes just to dance to it and not to sign at all. But
Yeah.
so classical music can be a wonderful addition for so many reasons, but it's not the only way for your child to be stimulated or develop through music.
Yeah, okay. Because often we think, "Oh, for the development, the classical music is the best." Maybe one thing that, and I don't know if it's a little bit controversial, but thinking about like sound machines, how, and I'm from Germany, and to be completely honest, it's not as common there. But I feel like in the US, in this current time, it's almost expected that you have a sound machine and that you have it on pretty loud. And my husband was always so against it. And he just felt like, imagine you watch a TV that's, like the old, where it's just like, that's almost what it sounds like. So it's like, okay, is it stimulating them and putting them in a deeper sleep, or is it doing the opposite, that it's bothering them so much that it keeps them asleep? I would love to hear your opinion when it comes to that.
I will tell you honestly, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other
Okay.
because I have seen some babies and young children respond really favorably to them and others not.
Okay.
So there are also though there's white noise, there's I think violet noise, there's like all different and I don't know if all the sound machines have the ability to make those choices, but there's different sort of pitch and sound levels with the different color noises
Hmm.
that could be more or less favorable or stimulating for some people versus others. So
Just whatever works for your baby.
I don't have a strong opinion on wasn't something that was so big to use when my kids were babies. We didn't
Yeah.
have one. Yeah.
But you wouldn't say that it causes any harm as far as you.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And if
Okay.
you do find that it provides your baby with relaxation and the
Yeah.
ability to sleep, then go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Going back into sign, what would you say are kind of like the first signs that families should start if they're not familiar with sign language that can really help in the daily communication and help when it comes to like daily struggles?
So sometimes I'll say there's no right or wrong sign to start with, right? Because it might be that your baby is not going to sign at all until they can sign airplane because they love airplanes and you're expecting them to sign milk, right? And they may
Yeah.
not sign milk because they know that you're going to give it to them even if they don't ask for it, right? So I say sign whatever is in your environment, whatever you're interested in, whatever you think your baby might be interested in. That said, the things that are going to help them initially communicate with you, milk, more,
Mhm.
asking for a diaper change or being told they're having a diaper change, bath, it's bath time. Sometimes it's a matter of if your little one loves being in the bath, then that can get them excited for it. If they're a little nervous getting into the bath, that can get them sort of ready for it so they know what's about to come. So they're not surprised. And then
Okay.
also the sign for mom and dad. So
I
they
love
can
that.
differentiate and, say who they want right now in this moment or
Yeah.
be aware of how to label that special person in their life.
That's so beautiful, and just I love getting into this world because just being able to communicate with them at such an younger age in ways that really aren't possible otherwise. It's just like a whole new way of thinking about communication that's going beyond just facial expressions and kind of guess because so much of it is guessing in the beginning and like causing frustration because we don't know what do they want and you're just trying to soothe them, but also, as you kind of run out of things to do with your baby all day,
Mhm.
it could be something beautiful to get into because, as you mentioned earlier, you have to look at each other. So you have to be so incredibly present, which is beautiful and can be hard nowadays. So to have that beautiful connection, I can imagine just takes that connection between parents and children to a whole nother level.
It does. And that face to face time releases oxytocin, which is known as the love hormone. And so, even if you're feeling a little like frustrated or irritated or having some baby blues or whatever might be coming up, having that face to face time can really help with that feeling good about your parenthood and your baby again in those moments too.
It's beautiful. So when it comes to your classes, is there like a certain like story that you kind of like to tell or a moment that you love to look back to when it comes to like any progress you've seen or any beautiful experiences with children in your classes?
I've had so many. So at one point, we had a toddler playgroup, and one of our toddlers was deaf and fluent in sign. His mother was also deaf. And he wound up sort of not taking over, but being like an assistant teacher. And he felt so proud that being the same age as the other children, that he had something very special to offer them. He somehow understood that they wanted to communicate and communicate with him, but he knew something that they didn't know. And so he became like my little assistant. And it was really, that was just really amazing. He was just empowered. And as much as children learn from grown-ups, they learn from each other. And even as young as, 2 years old or 18 months, they really like to well, they copy each other. They like to do what other children are doing. And so that was really exciting. And then anytime I see a first sign in class, a baby signs milk for the first time, or one of our closing songs has I love you in it. And so we'll see a baby do this and it might be their first sign. So, these little moments, I've had many of them. I also sometimes get videos sent to me via email of this is her first sign, she did it, and it's very exciting. So those shares are really very special to me.
That's beautiful. So, in the classes that you teach, you sing together, you sign together. So, parents that have never sang with their children before could come to your class, kind of learn the first signs and just see the whole interaction. or be super advanced and just want to create like this more of like community signing and music and singing together. It's just, I love that program and I wish it would be available everywhere in the US. I mean, it sounds so wonderful and like such an amazing, beautiful experience together that really just brings everyone so much joy. Yeah, I wish you would have it nationwide.
So I would say anybody who we do some Zoom programming,
Okay.
which is wonderful because we can reach people who don't live near us.
Yeah.
It's a great option. There is something really special about being in the same room together,
Mhm.
though, when possible. But I would say if anybody is interested in finding out if there's something in their area and they've not been able to find it, to reach out to me because maybe I know or maybe I have a resource that could be helpful. If there is any parent listening who does have a child who's born deaf, I really encourage them to reach out to me because I have a number of resources all around the country. Um, and one thing that I really love about so I developed our curriculum, and so every Baby Fingers class, no matter who is leading it, me or anyone on my team, starts with the same opening song and ends with the same closing song. And then week by week, we incorporate new topics and vocabulary and songs. And we do have a mix of parents who learn sign language in college, parents who are deaf, parents whose parents are deaf, children who are deaf. So, a nice mix of people who have absolutely no access or exposure to sign language, who don't feel comfortable singing, to others who are professional musicians or a deaf family member and that kind of thing. And they come together and share the space and develop that comfort in that area of really how do I incorporate this as I begin to be a parent?
Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely love that. So what's kind of like a mindset shift that you would like parents to walk away from when they learn your method?
I think one is that it's more than just a gesture, it's an actual language. And so it doesn't have to stop when your child starts speaking. So that's something to consider. You can develop a bilingual family by continuing to incorporate American Sign Language. It can also bridge the gap between two spoken languages. So, families who are concerned that they already speak German and English at home, and now
Mhm.
they're adding another language, won't it be confusing?
Yeah.
The fact that you can actually sign while you're speaking, you can use the sign for milk and say it in each of the two languages. And when your baby sees this one sign, they're going to make that connection. They're going to have a stronger understanding of those two different sounding words. And they're also going to know if one parent always says it in English and one always says it in German, they'll know who to go to once they can say it in those languages. But they'll know that both understand this.
Interesting.
So sort of a myth buster that
Yeah.
it won't delay speech and it won't confuse an already bilingual household.
And it can also actually, as I think about it, because that's how it is in my household. My husband does not speak German. So I'm always joking about it and say, like, are you gonna learn with her? And he just has no interest in learning
Confusing.
German, unfortunately. So
Oh,
I always say, well, we'll be able to talk about you behind your back.
right.
So if we sign, he will still be able to understand it. Even the little parts to be able to pick it up would be just beautiful.
And so maybe he'll start to learn some of those German
Yeah.
words without planning to.
Yeah, yeah. So, I don't know if that's your expertise, but when it comes to like raising children bilingual, would you actually say that it's beneficial sometimes to say it first in their German, then in English, and keep showing the sign and just kind of go back and forth? Okay.
Absolutely. It certainly helps if one parent is primarily only speaking one language and the
Mhm.
other parent primarily only speaking the other, but oftentimes one of those languages is the language that they speak together. So
Yeah.
your baby might hear you speak in English to your husband. Dad might speak English to baby and you'll speak German to baby, right? So there's some overlap. But if you are alone with her, then to yes, say it in each language separately, sign it in
Okay.
both. Yep. And those connections will be a little bit strengthened.
That's beautiful. And even like if we were to like practice it together to I say it in German, he says it in English, I say it in German, he says it in English. Okay.
Absolutely.
'Cause it's yeah, especially as, these, like, cards come in to show they have animals on them and all these that you do. My sister made fun of me at the beginning. She doesn't have a child, but she was here at the beginning and helped me tremendously. And she thought, "Oh my, you're basically teaching her vocabularies because we're just used to it, right? It's like the cards." But it's just so amazing. And now I do it in both languages. And then you would just basically do this in both languages and sign, which is a whole nother level to communicate together.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
even if there's a storybook that you like to read to your baby, whether it's written in English or in German or whatever language is your family's language, you could read it in both, and whatever signs you know, you could put in at the times that those words are there.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's just, yeah, I'm just amazed by what's possible.
Yeah.
In terms of baby fingers, what's your vision? Do you have a bigger plan for it, or are you just really happy with how you've been able to grow it over the last 25 years?
So I guess a little bit of both. I love where we are. New York City is really our home.
Hmm.
But even though we had done a little bit of live online prior to COVID, there was a silver lining where the need to transition everything to a virtual platform helped us reach families that are far from where we are. So the idea of continuing to expand, whether it's virtual or setting up programs in other places. For example, we do have one of our New York based teachers who moved to Los Angeles. So we have a little availability in Los Angeles, and that's exciting. So if there's a possibility of doing some of that in other places, we would love to. We do offer some professional development and certification training for qualified people who might want to do some of that as well. But I also am the author of some sign language books for kids, and I just recently self-published a children's rhyming storybook. And while that is not sign language based, I do sign it as I read it. And so just incorporating more literacy based resources for young children is something that I'm really passionate about as well.
What is it called?
It's called The Muggy Buggy Day. It's Adventures with Opal, The Muggy Buggy Day. And Opal is the little girl who's the primary character in the story.
Okay, everyone has to go and get that book.
It's a fun rhyming
Yeah.
story, and yeah, absolutely.
That sounds like a fun bedtime
Mhm.
activity. Beautiful. I didn't even know about that. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I hope that one day you would get to the point of teaching one person in every single city, in any big city at least, and really expanding the program, but we'll see where that takes you. So today, do you have online classes that people can go and take?
We do.
Yeah.
So, at the current time, what we have on our schedule is a school age group
Mhm.
on Zoom and one-on-one individual sessions.
Okay.
We don't on our schedule have groups of like a specific class time for infants and young toddlers, but that's something that if families are interested in, then we're setting up small groups and things like that for people. So it is available. It's just not on our schedule at the moment. So that would be by request.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, just ending with kind of if there was one change how society could support new parents, what would that be?
I would say release the pressure. Right? There's this pressure to do everything and to be perfect, and I don't even know what that perfect looks like, right? So to release the pressure. And I would also say to empower families who have a child who's deaf, a child who has a disability, and really a family with any child at all, just empowering families to feel like there are resources and to feel like everything that they're doing for their child is everything they need to do. There's so much pressure to do too much, to
Hmm.
do something in a certain way. And I think just to be able to find joy in each moment without this pressure to, I don't know, to do more.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate you sharing your gift with us and explaining more about the importance of sign language and how it can really help every family out there. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And yeah, everyone needs to go and buy the book and maybe schedule an online class.
That'd be wonderful.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you having me. This was really
Yeah.
delightful. Thank you.
Thank you.